if you feel comfortable, reach in there. Gently feel what it feels like on the base of the inside of the skull. Okay. And also, what is this structure right here?
Foramen magnum.
The foramen magnum. Foramen, it's a hole. I'm going to pass this around. A little dusty. I apologize for my voice. I am not getting, apparently I was getting a cold last week, which I didn't realize until Friday night. And I'm getting over it, but my voice still sounds pretty terrible. It's actually better right now than it was this morning. So I apologize if it's going to probably get raspier and less raspy as the course goes on. So just wave me down if you can't hear me really well, okay? And I'll try to fix it somehow. A couple of bits of business. We're going to finish up the cerebellum today, and then we're going to go through the basal ganglia thalamus, and then Wednesday you have your exam. How y'all feeling about that? That good, huh? I wanted to share, I always wait for the class before, so I don't do a review sheet, but y'all can make your own 8.5 by 11 index card, the 4x6 index card maximum, and you can cover it as much as you like on one side, but it has to be handwritten. 4x6. So you can make a 4x6 index card. Meters. 4x6 inches. Thank you. Speaking. I have my triptych. Here's my work on my exam. Sorry, a bunch of images just looked in my head. A 4x6 index card.
Does that mean it's going to be extremely hard?
Okay. I never know how hard is it, like, you know. Is it exam middling? No, nobody cries after my exam. People typically at the end of my exam go, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought. I'm not just telling you that. If there are procedural questions around exams, we do have content that I want to get through today. So I'm going to ask that you email them to me. Unless I'm going to take like 2 or 3 burning questions about the exam, but more than that, and we'll get sidetracked from class. So I do want to try to keep it focused to what we have to discuss today, but not to discourage those of you that didn't have your hands up. I did see a hand over here first, somewhere. Did you have a question?
I was just going to ask if the exam is first and if there's any lecture after.
No, the exam's first and there will be no lecture after. The exam takes about 60 minutes. It's a 60-minute exam, and then you can get a breather afterwards if you finish. But for those of you that need a little bit after that hour, you can take up to the 2 hours, and I'll be in here. But it should take you about 60 minutes. Yes.
So you said it's one side of the card. Can you literally do one side of the card?
Yes. It's a test giving strategy I've used for a long time, and I find that it really, really, really helps people process and create your own priority list a lot better than if I handed it to you. It makes you practice. If you just typed it up or copied and made it small, you wouldn't get the same sort of benefit from it. That's why I do that. And I am going to ask that you turn it in with your exam. So, yeah.
I'm just wondering, is it like multiple choice still like?
We talked about that briefly the other day. So to remind, it's been like a week or so it's fine. So to remind you, some of it's multiple choice. You don't need Scantrons. Very little of it will be though. There are going to be short answers, labeling, fill in the blank. The short answers will be things like, I think I gave you an example that will probably be on the test. What's the significance of myelin to multiple sclerosis? So I'm asking for interpretation and importance around topics we've talked about, relevance questions. Or tell me how this process works. So what are some processes, y'all, we have learned recently in here together? Action potentials. So how does an action potential work? Flow. It flows. Action potential. Gradients. More than one Excuse me.
We're gonna have to check because that's how we might draw.
Okay, so for short answers, I don't need just a verbal response necessarily, and there will be more specific instructions on the question. I want you to keep it to a certain limit, so I'll say don't draw outside this box, for example. So otherwise, sometimes I'll get papers with like, see page 4 at the back, and here's the arrow to follow around. I'm going, I can do this. It can take me 8 years to grade. There's 60 of you, so I have to keep it a little bit shorter. But if an image makes sense, for example, for an action potential, drawing a graph, drawing a VA, drawing something to supplement what you're saying, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, especially for math. And it's fun to mix those things. Yep.
Sorry. Anything that's covered through today is fair game to the exam. Is that true? Okay.
That's true.
Is it gonna be more lecture-based?
Everything's fair game. But for importance, things that have been talked about or discussed in multiple resources that you have, so in the textbook and the atlas, or in the textbook and in class. The things I talk about are highlights of importance, but I am going to expect a higher level of detail than sometimes you have time to go through and put together. All right. Moving on. Y'all are great. Usually I'm like hiding behind the screen, but you know what are questions? I want to talk about fun things. And I understand that you've never had an exam for me. That's why I try to put it earlier in the term too, so we get out of the way and you know how I operate. And plenty of advance notice before the last exam. And that's just sort of part of it. You got to figure out how it works, right? But there are lots of other opportunities for grades. So keep that in mind. Okay, cerebellum. Again, we're building up from the spinal cord, up collar, up higher, more superiorly, up the brain. So here's a gross anatomy of the cerebellum. You have the dorsal view, you have the parasagittal section. What do y'all know about the cerebellum? What's its main function? Coordination. Right. Anybody else had any other ways they thought of it?
Balance, which is kind
What's that?
of balance, which is kind of goes along with coordination.
That's right. Lines things out. That's right. When you get down to the nitty gritty, so the cerebellum is 10 times more dense than your cerebrum. It's just a denser collection of cells. So most of its outputs, 90% of what the cerebellum does is inhibitory. So what it's doing is fine-tuning things that are already being planned at a gross motor level. So if you are sending down a plan to pick up a bottle, it'll help you fine-tune it. I'll tell you a story about this in a second. I think I may have mentioned something about a taxi in here before. Have I ever mentioned that word before? No, teaching 2 brain classes this term. Switch them up. So everybody put down the pens for a second. What I want you to do is, don't do it yet, but what I want you to do is reach out and stop right before you pick up your pen, or your water bottle, whatever you have in front of you, or your skull. And just stop and look at your hands. Go ahead. It's not. There you go. Look at your hands. What do you notice?
They're already making the shape.
Yeah. Everybody's going with this. It's like pen shaped, right? Or if I went to pick up this bottle, my hand would go bottle shaped. You don't have to think about it. Is anybody in here a server? You guys serve food? You get really fast, you don't have to think about it, and you know how to balance. Sometimes I'm actually really terrible at doing that. Like, you drop things all the time. But you probably have to learn to get that way, right? To practice. That's your cerebellum doing that. Helping you already know how to carry things, but it's like carrying things at a different level, and that's what your cerebellum is supposed to do. Your gross motor, your cerebrum, can help you learn to ride a bike, but it's your cerebellum that lets you get really fine-tuned at it. Has anybody learned how to dance recently? Learned a new specific dance? Or learned how to knit? Learned how to play an instrument? Anybody do that recently? Yay, somebody's learning new things outside of classwork. Anybody learned a motor skill that's complex recently? want to have like a ballroom class or something, so we can all feel this. Does it feel awkward at first?
Yes.
So what have you learned recently?
Well,
You don't mind
the
sharing?
awkward that I'm taking sign language, American Sign Language,
Oh, there you go.
and the instructor is deaf and didn't know that I didn't know anything. And so when we met for the first time, I didn't have many tools at all,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the awkward part, I think. But the awkward motor coordination, I was learning the alphabet, and the fact that my big brain picked up all of the letters, but maybe my cerebellum had trouble like putting it all together.
Mm-hmm. Or doing it fast.
Doing it, yeah.
They write finger spells super fast. I have to like think about each letter. I can sometimes get my name faster, but you saw my hand like, yeah. How do you do R? Okay. Yeah, that's a good example. And for those of you that haven't learned a new skill recently, does anybody know how to knit or how to dance? And do you have a memory of learning how to do it? I bring up knitting because I'm a knitter, and I remember learning how to knit on double-pointed needles. So like I'm knitting a sock right now, and it's not hard. But when I learned, I was like dropping stuff. It was like I always tell people it was like wrestling an octopus until I figured it out. Like like grab the stitch, pull the stitch through, scoot it over, but actually doing it. Or video games, I see a controller up there. Learning how to line up your thumbs to do like a fast like button mash. You have to be able to practice that to get it right? Button mashing. So that in your cerebellum is what helps you line that stuff up. If you have cerebellum damage, then you have trouble fine-tuning those things. So for example, has anybody ever, and you can make mistakes that help you understand better what it would be like not to have that control. So if you ever opened up your fridge to pull out a jug of like orange juice or something, and you think it's full, you go to pick it up, what do you do? And it tastes good. It works. Right? I did that once in class and it was open. And I don't have any excuse for it. Lack of observation. You make a mistake, right? Or if you try to pick something up and you make a mistake about its weight or its texture, it sort of messes you up. That's your cerebellum having to hurry and correct it. And if you don't have that control, that mistake might not be corrected as easily. So that's the job of your cerebellum, to fine-tune and help to coordinate all the different things you have to keep in mind. So your balance, where your body is in space, where your arm has to move to get an object, the shape of your hand, and how to modify that if you think it's going to be really heavy. So if I'm going to go pick up my bottle, and I want to go like that, but let's say I know it's full of something that's super dense and heavy. Would this cut it? You would probably adjust your hand, right? So okay, I have to pick it up from the bottom. And those are things you might not have to think about. But that's kind of things your cerebellum helps to monitor. Another thing that it does, that is more related to speed, normal pen, here we go. You ever, a weird shaped pen, put a pin in your mouth and you can keep talking? Not very good at it, actually. There we go. Have you ever done that? Or put food in your mouth and you talked around it? Your cerebellum's able to correct for that. It's called motor equivalence. We're actually quite good at it when our cerebellum is working properly. Kids are terrible at it. You ever watched a kid try to talk with their mouth closed? They haven't lined this up. So whenever I watch have you ever seen a new baby? Have you ever watched a new baby learn to walk? How do they look when they're walking? Right? I always call it the drunken sailor. I'm always, oh, their little cerebellum's coming alive. That's their cerebellum developing and getting enough feedback from their experience in order to fine-tune their activities. Yes?
In the book, it mentions the cerebellum agenesis condition. Agenesis, a condition where you are born without that part of your brain. And the example says that a child that was discovered to have been born without her cerebellum wasn't able to walk until age 6, I think. And so that seems like a gross motor skill, but if this cerebellum is for fine motor, I'm just wondering how that relates to that example.
So even for gross motor things, there are still fine control pieces you have to integrate. So even though the actual moving of the legs is a gross motor, you still have to maintain your posture and integrate that with that motion. If you're carrying something or if the floor is uneven. So yeah. Has anybody ever had trouble walking and the texture is funny? Anybody ever experienced that? So I work with folks with stroke a lot, and if they have texture changes, that's when you'll start to see maybe their balance troubles coming up because they aren't able to adjust for that texture. That's not from cerebellum, that's bigger. But you'll see that also in folks without cerebellar control. And there's a lot more fine motor involved in the things we do day to day than we do. It's about coordination. So some people can work around it, learn to work around it, which she did. It just took her a long time, right? The person in the book. And there have been these kind of rare cases where they've gone a lot of their life without realizing that they had partial cerebellar damage, or they're missing a hemisphere, for example. So our brain can be amazing and plastic and help to recruit other areas of the brain to do the thing that's missing, but not always. So there are some tests that we can do to look for cerebellar damage. So the finger to nose test, right? We go back and forth. What does that look like?
Sobriety test.
Sobriety test, that's right. Anybody know why this looks like a sobriety test?
Because it is.
In your book, does it talk about that in detail, or does it mention it at all? I didn't think it did. So people with ataxia do often get mistaken for people that are drunk, which is extremely frustrating for somebody with cerebellar damage. Because nobody really, I've had a few patients like this, and people don't believe them. One patient in particular liked to speed on his motorcycle. Everyone was like, just stop speeding, you won't get stopped. So he would get stopped, and the cops never believed him that it was a condition of his brain. So he was always in jail trying to explain what ataxia was. And all the charges were always dropped, but it took a lot of time out of his life, and it was extremely embarrassing. And it was extremely frustrating. Because it does, one of the first structures to be affected by alcohol poisoning is your cerebellum. So alcohol is a toxin, and what it does is it dilutes the metabolites available to your brain. And because your cerebellum is so dense, it's the second one to be affected. So anybody know the first structure to be affected by alcohol? Your liver. In your brain. Oh.
Isn't it your frontal lobe? Oh,
That's third. What else happens? So I don't want to know if you guys are drunk, but what's one of the first other problems you have if you drink too much?
Slurring?
That's cerebellar.
Inhibitions.
Frontal. Do you remember everything really clearly?
Oh.
That's your hippocampus. So your hippocampus is also a very hungry structure. So your hippocampus is one of the first structures to lose functioning. Yes.
I know someone who has cerebral palsy, and she has ataxic cerebellar cerebral palsy. And yeah, she definitely loses her balance a lot and looks drunk. She also has a lot of kind of unpredictable fluctuation of the volume of her speech. Is that her cerebellum?
Yep, that's also the cerebellum. So, let's use this. It's so tiny. Yes, so your ability to maintain your vocal, your volume, your pitch, all those things are fine motor control of that. And if you have, let's say, an increased load where you're getting excited about something, you might forget to overtly do that. So one thing you'll see in somebody with ataxia is that they look for sounds where they are like, they know what the letter is. Let's say they're trying to say the word car or bottle. It's a nice frontal so you can see it. So if they want to say bottle, they'll go bottle. They know where the B is and they're trying to find it, but they have to plan each letter online. So they don't have this routine that just allows them to speak fluently all the time. So they might get it out, and it's not usually a problem for intelligibility. It just sounds a little off, depending on the severity. So roll. So it won't be fluid, and you won't have as much co-articulation between syllables. We all talked about that in phonetics. So if they do,
I'm not into that.
well, you will talk about co-articulation in phonetics, or you will have, and that's where you adjust the sounds around the one you're producing naturally, just because of the shape of your mouth. But you'll have less of that in somebody with ataxia because they're having to produce things in a different way and think about it without having to rely on routines. So it's more labored. And it won't always sound that different. It might just sound like not quite coordinated, not quite right. If it's more severe, it'll sound sloppier. So you'll see clumsier, more discoordinated movements. And the image to have in your head, the simplest image, is to imagine somebody, even a stereotypical drunk person, right? It's not a perfect comparison because there's other things going on. Somebody with cerebellar ataxia does not have memory problems typically, depending on how their brain was injured. But that sloppy, lack of coordination, difficulty with fine motor control. If I want to touch my nose and touch that bottle with different hands over and over again, I might have a tremor as I go for the target because I'm trying to find it. And you'll see those things in somebody with ataxia. You will see cerebellar disorders in development where different parts of the cerebellum don't develop normally during utero or during initial development.
Just for the testing, that you can't see this in an MRI, cerebellum image.
Oh, yeah,
You can. Okay.
yeah, it's well depending.
Okay.
Sure. Cerebellum is close-ish to the surface of your skull, so it's a good job. Depending on how deep the damage is. Friedreich's ataxia is a degenerative condition, so if it starts at a cellular level, it'll be a while before you see the damage. And these other problems look similar but have different causes. We won't go too much in depth here. Brain injury is a pretty common cause of cerebellar damage because of the location of the cerebellum in the brain. And you have that coup contra coup, which we'll talk about a little bit. Your head maybe goes into a flash like this, your brain sloshes around in there, and your cerebellum is susceptible to damage. That is the cerebellum. Yes?
One hemisphere is damaged versus the other versus hereditary difference.
They do similar things. They just control which side of the body does your left hemisphere of your cerebellum control. It's still mostly contralateral. Because where does most of your motor control cross over? 80% decussates in your medulla. Yeah. So you'll still have this hemispheric split. And it used to be thought that the cerebellum was sort of this unitary body of cells that all did similar things. And within the past decade, it's been discovered that that's not true. It's never true. If somebody ever said that, it's usually more complex and dense. But there has been since some research on more localized function of the cerebellum. But that's really new research. I don't know a lot of the most up-to-date info on that. I see a hand on this side somewhere.
I might be skipping ahead, but is cerebellar agenesis like a lack of growth of the cerebellum?
Yes. So it's not formal. And sometimes you can see unilateral agenesis or bilateral. So part of it may be blind. Could be incomplete or total. Yes.
What would be some good keywords for the disorders to kind of help remember them?
What did y'all get from the chapters? So tell me what you know about cerebellar hemispherical syndrome. So we brought up these last year. So there's a generation of Friedreich's ataxia. But cerebellar hemispherical syndrome refers to what?
Oh.
I'm sorry. So there are hemispheres in the cerebellum, and then there are also isn't there something else? Aren't there like quadrants or something?
Go back. Oops. Too far. Go back.
Lobes.
Lobes. There you go.
Okay.
So this is the sagittal here. Here's the arborvitae, which is the tree. And then you have the folio, the leaves. But the gross is these lobes, the anterior and posterior, the vermis, and then the left lot of the other structures you're learning right now.
The corn has a third and like a third and fourth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's could be the vegetables.
Of the cerebellum.
Yeah. No, I don't think that the cerebellum has third and fourth. Some things. I'm not sure where your mind is. Sorry.
Is the vermis similar to the corpus callosum? Does it integrate the two lobes?
It does help them communicate, but again, it's localization. It's not really clear all the things it does. It does help with inhibitory function and communication, but it also has grosser properties where it does a lot of the same stuff as the hemispheres. The vermis is named because it looks wormier than the hemispheres. So vermicelli, forming, that's where it's named from. So I wouldn't call it corpus callosum. It's not white matter. It's gray matter. So you can see the density of the gray matter. So thinking about the white matter, when you look at a cross-section of the cerebrum, the white matter of the cerebellum is much less. That's the density I was talking about. The cells in the cerebellum are much denser. We kind of got off track from your original question up there. Now, for keywords here, if you're asking for the purpose of the exam, I would ask you more generally, what would damage to the cerebellum do? I wouldn't ask you necessarily to describe specific syndromes in this case. Yeah, but the textbook gives you a nice little summary for each, and it's not too expensive, so I would rely mostly on that.
Yeah, because a lot of it is like tremors.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, well then, what distinguishes this? I guess it's hard to kind of like,
It's just the cost. That's what it comes from. No, I understand the confusion there. So the thing with the cerebellum is if it's damaged, you'll see similar consequences. That's probably where you're getting confused. These are really about what causes the cerebellum damage or what causes damage. Okay? The verbal syndrome being damage or problems with the vermis. Cerebellum hemispheral syndrome, I would say, is problems with the hemisphere.
so like if you had somebody come in, a client come in, and they had the tremors, would you name the syndrome after kind of like assessing their symptoms or after kind of getting an MRI and looking at their brain and seeing what is actually damaged?
Well, that's a great question for a different reason than you're asking it. SLPs do not diagnose medical conditions. If we diagnose ataxia, we're diagnosing the symptoms. I would never diagnose something like this. Yeah. So the neurologist or the primary care, if they know enough about the disorder, would be the one that would look at the constellation of verbal, nonverbal symptoms from, they compile information from their history, from familial traits, from the SLP, from the neuropsych testing, and then they would say, all these symptoms point to this disorder, and now we're going to look at MRI. This is not something SLPs would diagnose. So what we would do if they walked into my clinic, or what I would do is look at their tremors, look at their medical history, and say they have symptoms consistent with ataxic dysarthria, for example. Recommend further testing from neurology, treatment pending diagnosis, something like that.
So would you necessarily treat, since a lot of them have a lot of the same symptoms, would you treat them differently? Like say like between like verbal and unverbal and the hemispherical syndrome? Would you treat them
Depends on-
differently?
It would depend on what their problems are. So the thing with dysarthria and neural-based symptoms, especially for dysarthrias, is that you can't always target the impact. So if their cerebellum is damaged, no amount of treatment on my part is going to bring their cerebellum back. It's really going to be helping them work around it, or giving them strategies and lots of motor practice to build motor routines somewhere else. So yes, I would treat them similarly. Now, if it's the exception here, would be something like Friedreich's ataxia, which is degenerative. So I know they're going to have increasing difficulties as the syndrome progresses, where it's going to start out with maybe mild verbal symptoms and progress to where somebody is more wheelchair bound, and they might have more trouble eating and swallowing even. So I would plan for that from day one, because you don't want to wait until somebody is very impaired to say introduce alternative communication devices. It's easier to deal with those things when you're on. play with it and figure it out before now you have to rely on it at a different level. Does that make sense? I see where you're going with your questions. Any other questions like that? Okay. Let's jump over to this. Alright, where's the brain? Oh, there it is. No, you're good. I'll snag it when I get to it. Again, I need like 8 of those, so everybody can have some. So what I'm going to do for the purposes of the exam, anybody try to do a clay model? Anybody try? I got a couple emails with people that were doing it. I do recommend figuring out a way to get that 3D experience. So what I'm going to do is leave that model in the office outside my office in 85. Do you know where Jeff Kahn's office is? Right next door to him. And so I'll put the model out in that shared space so that y'all can access it. I highly recommend spending some good quality time with that model so you can open it up, walk through the cerebellum, pick up the cerebellum, look at it, go up the brainstem, figure out what everything is, and you can have that 3D visual image with your hands too. Okay? So I'll leave that out for y'all. There's another less good model in there. It's just the cerebral hemispheres, I think, with a picture on like a image on the inside of other structures. And so that one's less good, but it's still worth looking at. Somebody else is looking at that one. There are a couple of them. Yes.
As far as level of detail goes for the clay models, obviously if you're going to attempt it, you want to be as detailed as possible, but perhaps you don't have the skills or the tools. What are you looking for specifically?
You don't have to turn, this is for you.
Okay.
So it's a study tool. Yeah. A couple people are going to do it and use it as a learning experience because they're going to hit fancy versions. Because they might be better at say working with clay,
Okay.
other 3D media.
If you are going to do it as a learning experience, then you want to put detail on top.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Where somebody else is what they're looking at. Now for me, when I've done that in the past to try to learn, I totally have played with my kids. They're like making like French fries and pizza. And I'm like, ooh, look, the brainstem. My kids know all the words now too. It's awesome. Anyway. But I would just do gross motor and help walk yourself through it. So gross structures. If you're just doing it as a study tool. So build that brainstem, take it apart. Build that brainstem again. Okay. For example. Or for the basal ganglia, build the caudate, or build the cutaneous, build the caudate tail. And as you build the structures, talk yourself through it. Say, oh, I need a balance. Where does that go again? It goes in here. Right? Medial. That's what I mean by a study tool. It helps you walk through it in lieu of actually being able to hold the real basal ganglia. So, quick aside, work. Getting through so next week after the exam, we're going to start jumping into the cerebrum. And really quickly, we're going to have gotten through the basic anatomy pieces that you'll need to have a basis of so we can talk more about why it's relevant in more detail. So if you look at the syllabus, the later part of the term really gets into the speech system, the cognition system, the language system. And in order to talk about this, you need to have this basic understanding of the structures so that you can understand how everything works together as a whole. Does that make sense? So the reason we're going through all this stuff so quickly is so we can get to really the reason we have this course, right? So you can understand how all these pieces fit together to let us do complex behavior. So that's the goal here. We're sort of flying through the brain. It will feel, does it feel like a lot at once? So it feels like a lot, but you'll be grateful later because you'll have this basis to build on when we get to the systems. I've tried to combine systems we're talking through in other classes, and I think it does okay, but I think it's a little overwhelming to go from anatomy to big system right away, because you're like still trying to remember the words. You're like, dying what now? And you want me to, okay, dysarthria. And I think it's like too much big picture at once. So I really like that this is sort of walking you through the anatomy, which is pretty basic, just terminology is the big thing. And understanding where it is in space. So we can talk about what I consider the really cool part. We talk about the systems. With all that said, let's get to the diencephalon basal ganglia brain principles. Oh, and I had another announcement I forgot to tell you. So I have a former clinic patient here, a friend, who has aphasia, and speaking of getting to language systems, he's going to come talk to y'all in November. So like the day before Thanksgiving was when he could come, so he's coming on the 23rd of November to tell you his story and what it's like for him to have aphasia. So, and his name is Larry Button. Anybody met him? Did you say Button? Button. So he's great. I consider him an aphasia ambassador. We talk to my classes all the time. He likes to share about what it's like. So I've met a couple people with aphasia. Okay. That's why we're learning all this. You can understand how that works, right? Oh, animation. Okay. So we're starting with diencephalon, of which the thalamus is one there. The thalamus, how I think of the thalamus, is like a train station. It's a relay station. Everything goes through it, up and down. As we're moving up the brain, it sits on top of the brain stem, sort of. Whatever that model is. Up on top. I'll put it back around in a second. I like to gesture with it. Let's see. Not throwing the cerebellum there, but it's front row. I almost did anyway. There we go. So this part is the brainstem, right? And then the thalamus sits on top of that, medially. So, the three main functions of the thalamus are to channel, integrate, and regulate information. So its really basic function is just to channel that information through the appropriate nuclei in the thalamus to where it needs to go in your body or where it needs to go in your sensory cortex. It also helps to somewhat integrate that information. So it helps to integrate pain, temperature, and touch information. It also helps to regulate with it. You will have a basic sense from the thalamus integration of sort of basic low level, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing, before you have conscious awareness of why or how. It helps to maintain base arousal, base attention, and your circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake cycle. That's all regulated in the thalamus. So you can see on this coronal view, that the thalamus is very medial. This is your base, some of your basal ganglia right here. Your thalamus is right here, almost to the center of your brain. So you have two sides to it, on either side. Below it, you have your hypothalamus, hypo being lower. And right there, you have the epi, or around, epithalamus, so it's near your thalamus. And your subthalamus is right below it as well. So it's this tiny piece there. So here's this view, the sagittal view, the other way. So this is the opposite side. This just gives you another way to orient to it. So again, for the purposes of studying, go back and forth between these images. The voice got away from me there. They keep going up, so it doesn't stop. Go back and forth between those two images and help to line things up in 3 dimensions. So, okay, if it's the thalamus is right here in the middle, then when I'm looking at this, where's the thalamus? Oh, it's here. So if I cut here, that's what I'm looking at. You see how you go back and forth and do that? And this view is really great to understand where the landmarks are in this other picture. So, for example, what is this right here?
Ventricle.
It's a ventricle. Yeah. We'll come back to which one in a minute. Which is also here. The ventricle is a space in your brain with cerebrospinal fluid. Yep.
Where would the epithalamus be in this view?
The epithalamus. So let's see. Oops, sorry about that. So at this level, it would be up above a little bit. So it might not be visible depending on how far thinking it just doesn't have enough detail in this picture to see it. It would be here-ish.
But in theory, you should be able to see it from up here.
Potentially. It would depend on where sagittal you are. Are you mid-sagittal? Are you here? Are you here?
Right.
It would depend. But in theory, you could. So you have your landmark here should be this big meaty structure here, the corpus callosum, your ventricles, and then that's where the thalamus is usually. And the hypothalamus, again, is below it. So that previous picture that showed the nice big hypothalamus, that suggests to me that that last picture was somewhere about right here. You see why? That's per your question too. So it's nice and big. If we were saying coronally here, you wouldn't see the hypothalamus, right? So coronal, and here you wouldn't see any of it. So coronal, your coronal view depends on where you're slicing it. And this is just not detailed enough to see the hypothalamus or the subthalamus for that matter. Yeah. Okay. So the thalamus is a relay station. And honestly, for speech language pathologists, you don't usually need to know a high level of detail about the thalamus unless you're working on a clientele with primarily thalamic impairments, thalamic-based impairments, motor impairments, something like that. So what I want you to understand for the purposes of this class is that the thalamus is a relay station and that localization matters in it, and there are specific nuclei, and understanding a couple of these big ones. I just got all the way around that. Okay. One stop. Can you say that one time?
Localization matters.
Localization matters. So there are different nuclei that do different things. One problem I encounter is that people think of the thalamus as this unitary whole, and that it all does one thing, and that's not true. Each of these nuclei has an important function, which the book is really good about giving you a nice table of listing them. But I don't expect you to memorize that list. Pass it back. Everybody take a deep breath. Radial nerves, I want you to know. Thalamic nuclei, not so much. So the pulvinar is really important because it's a big landmark in the thalamus. And the geniculate bodies, we're going to revisit. So I want you to remember that the medial geniculate body goes to the auditory cortex, but the lateral geniculate body goes to the visual cortex. Those are important bits that we'll revisit when we get to the sensory systems. Thalamus is fascinating. It's a really, really fascinating structure. However, I do think it's a bit advanced for what y'all do for this class. It's so hard to see on the slide. So this is straight from your book. This is table 6.1. And this just lists all the thalamic nuclei, where its inputs, its afferent inputs, its efferent outputs, and what that tells you about is what it does. Okay? So one important function of learning I find, so for something like neuroanatomy, some of it you just gotta memorize, right? You just gotta learn the vocab, figure it out. But you're not gonna remember it and learn it unless you find a way to use it. That's why I require the other stuff like learning experiences. But another really important thing that you should do for this class and for other classes is not necessarily memorize things like this, but know that this table exists and where to get it. So if you say, this person has thalamic-based aphasia, where do I get information on what the thalamic nuclei do? Because he has dorsomedial damage. What does that mean? Flip, 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 chapter 6, got it. So I have books at home or books in my office that I encounter things I don't have any idea what I'm looking at all the time, but I know where to reference it, right? So there's going to be way too much information in your life to have every little bit memorized in depth. But you need to know your resources well enough to find things. This is one of those instances. So you do all the different nuclei have these groups. That's how this table is laid out. So some are just, you have a group of medial, and it's really just a dorsomedial nucleus there, this kind of green structure right here that goes through. But then you have laterodorsal that are on the side and to the back that have those different inputs and outputs. Okay. Devery-Rusey syndrome, I've just heard of that before, besides what your book gives you. And then you have pain syndrome related to thalamus damage. So it's dysesthesia, there we go.
Those are the same thing?
No. Oh, yes, they are.
AKA.
Sorry, AKA, yes. They are, like I said, not my forte. Yeah, so Devery-Rusey syndrome is thalamic pain syndrome. And you won't see much cognition speech-related problems really on that. That's why I don't know much about it. However, stuttering may be related issues at this level. Thalamus and basal ganglia. Yeah? Dysesthesia.
That is like you feel pain when it doesn't exist, or the opposite where you have problems processing.
So if you feel pain, it exists.
Okay.
So it's more that you feel pain related to a stimulus, not pain.
Okay.
So something hurts and there's not a clear cause. Pain's weird. Pain, has anybody ever looked at the research on pain before? Pain does not behave like your other senses. So pain goes through your thalamus, it's regulated by your thalamus. It's also related to lower level pain receptors. And you know how you put on, I was explaining this to somebody who was in Ralph Sellers earlier. So I was explaining this earlier, right? So the thing with pain is that it doesn't get better with time. So does anybody ever put on perfume and then after a few minutes you don't smell it anymore? For example, that's how most of your senses work. So for example, you've been looking at me, you're oriented to this class up here, and you may be unaware of how many doors, if you don't turn your eyes, like how many doors are into this room. There's actually 3, did you know? One on each side, and one up here. One class I taught, actually neurology, in the spring term. 3/4 of the way through the term, you realize there's a closet in the inside. You didn't even know what it is. But you get rid of things in your senses that you don't need. They sort of wash out. The opposite is true for pain. The more you're exposed to a noxious stimulus, the worse it gets. So has anybody ever read that before? So you can, and tell me if this is true in your experience, if you have broken bone. I actually haven't. But the way it was explained to me is that, let's say you hit your arm, you have a sense of pressure, and then your bone breaks, and you have this overwhelming sense of pain. So that's when your arm breaks. So what your brain does is say, oh, pressure on arm bad. And the next time you hit your arm, after your arm's healed, so you don't break your bone, you're like, oh God, it really hurts. And it doesn't match the level of pressure. It hurts way more than it should. Does that make sense? Is that y'all's experience, those of you that have broken limbs? That have not? I'm seeing nods. Yes?
So, does the thalamus have to do with Down syndrome where you can't feel pain? So,
you either don't feel it or it's wrong. So there's a wrong signal in there somewhere. That's where the dys comes from. Yeah. What's that? What's that?
Oh, I think she's talking about SIPA. Is that what the acronym is?
Oh, do you have a more specific question?
No, I was just trying.
You're trying to translate it?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people we work with are going to have pain-based syndrome. Some of them may be related to dynamic damage. The syndrome is only, I've never seen anybody with this syndrome because it doesn't result in communication. But it's a good example of what the thalamus does. Can I see another hand? Do you have a question?
I guess I've heard of like some people are born like more resistant to pain, and as children they're recommended to like overly watch them because they're not having a proper like pain response.
Or an attenuated one?
Yeah, and is that related?
I don't know if it's related to this thalamus. It could be. It's usually a broader prefrontal judgment related problem, and it's different. I know some kids with autism have that problem, for example, where they need kind of more sensory stimulation to get the drift of whatever it is they're trying to experience. But I think that's a separate issue. Yeah.
Saw that on Grey's Anatomy.
They do such a bad job. The show, I actually watched like 2 episodes and I just like couldn't anymore. They get like half the things they got that wrong. Doesn't make sense. right? But they had to have like made it up and like, we're just gonna call it aphasia. We're gonna call it stuttering. So stuttering is one of the theories around why stuttering happens developmentally is that there's a problem with the phonemic relay to speech and language. So there's something about the feedback loop when you speak. Everybody gets feedback when you speak, and you're able to sort of online process that. So there's one of the potential sources of a neurological problem related to that as a problem. It's not quite clear what it is. Bless you. I pick up. There is something called thalamic aphasia. That's fairly rare. It has seen half a dozen people with it, so it's less rare than you might think. It's usually mistaken for Wernicke's aphasia or fluent aphasia. Have y'all taken organic yet? Yeah. So like half the class. Can you raise your hands if you've taken it before? Ooh, less than half. So a small number of y'all. So you will be talking about aphasia when we get to organic communication disorders. We'll talk about it in here as well. We'll talk about the language system. But one of the types of aphasia, or one of the characteristics of aphasia, can be fluency. So somebody with non-fluent aphasia might have trouble with output and they sound disjointed, or it's called telegraphic, where they have trouble with function words. So it'll sound like it's effortful. But somebody with fluent aphasia, their prosody sounds normal. They're able to have normal output, but it doesn't always sound normal because they're making up words. So they have things called neologisms or perseverations. So, for example, somebody I saw with thalamic aphasia, one of his stereotypies was, well, sweet Christmas. So he would say, I would say, how are you doing today, Mr. So-and-so? He would say, well, sweet Christmas, and then the 3 and the 5, and it would sound like prosody in sentences, but it didn't make any sense, right? So somebody with thalamic aphasia usually has fluent verbal output, but it's milder than that. So they might have neologisms and what are called semantic paraphasias, where they substitute the wrong word for a word they're trying to produce. Like they say lion instead of tiger, for example. But it's milder than that extreme example I gave here. Somebody with Wernicke's aphasia also has very much impaired auditory comprehension, which is why that output doesn't always sound like it makes sense. Because they're not able to understand those words or put them in semantic context. Somebody with thalamic aphasia, though, is pretty fine with auditory comprehension. Minimally impaired. Same thing with repetition. We're able to repeat. It's just that output is fluent, but it has the paraphasias. Yeah?
Just a quick question about reading the table.
Mm-hmm.
The plus means a positive result for a problem, right? The problem was,
It's preserved. Yeah.
in the minimum, okay.
Yeah, so that's confusing with fluency. That's why I gave you the example. So in Wernicke's and thalamic aphasia, fluency is preserved, but I don't want you to think that that means that the output is fine, because that's not true. So fluency just means that the words are able to be connected and it doesn't sound effortful. That doesn't mean it makes any sense. So somebody with Wernicke's aphasia might have this fluent output, but you might not be able to understand them. Thalamic aphasia is a little milder than that, though. And it's often mistaken for a mild Wernicke's aphasia or a transcortical when somebody doesn't know what it is. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Just quickly, so if can you possibly give an example of what it means to have minimal impairment for auditory comprehension? Because I understand that, like, significant impairment, I can kind of understand what that would mean, but how can you be minimally impaired, like, for comprehension? What is that? How would someone describe that?
See if I want to take a shot at it. I've had experience or read about it before.
Because I worked with someone who had Wernicke's and them describing what that was like, and it sounded terrifying. But for thalamic, is that just bits and pieces that you have trouble processing?
So you might want to take a shot at it. It doesn't look like anybody would. It looked like you were trying, but you weren't trying.
I was reading.
Oh, got it. There, you're fine. So minimally, it doesn't mean that they're getting snippets. It's not an auditory problem. It's a language problem.
Right.
So what that means is that as you get more complex in language, that's when it starts to get weird. Somebody with a severe they might not get the content of language at all. So if I said, one of the texts in the aphasia books is, I'm going to get it wrong, or point to the door, then to your pencil. They might not get any of that. Somebody with phonemic aphasia would probably they would get door and pencil. But if I said something like, put the pencil on top of the book, then flip over the paper and hand me the pencil. That's like, whoa, wait. And it's, if you don't get the prepositions in that, you don't get the way those things are related or the order in which they happen, that's when you start to see those things.
So just to clarify, it's sort of, I mean, for me at least, I hope it helps somebody else. It's like reception as opposed to transmission or communication. Like they might be communicating, at least with their words, but not receiving very well.
Yeah, so this is when we get into things like modalities and communication. So reception is definitely part of communication. Communication to me is, when I picture communication, I see a big umbrella, or I like the rain cloud, and you have the different pieces of things. You have language, and language can be broken down into expressive and receptive. You might have arts over here, or music, or gestures. But language is broken down to receptive and expressive. We also talk about modalities in other classes. So that's something that you'll probably get to if you haven't already in other coursework. But yeah, so receptive trouble is what is being referred to when we talk about auditory comprehension. And it's not with hearing. Hearing's fine, or it may not be if you have more complications. It's about the language.
Working memory, like you tell, how it's done.
So people with aphasia do not have cognition problems typically. To be simple.
So it's not like the person couldn't hold that one part in their head. Wow.
Yep. So it's the sort of catchphrase I like about aphasia is that it's not a problem with intelligence or personality or thinking. It's a problem with language. They're separable.
That lady I worked with that had Vertices aphasia, she eventually recovered from it, but when she was describing it, she said people were talking to her, and she knew they were talking, but she just couldn't make sense of any of the words, and she was trying so hard, and I think she was in an accident, woke up from a coma to that, and was just like, what is happening? Like she could hear fine.
Sure, it's not hearing. It's language. Exactly. And that can happen if you use your thalamic damage. It can happen from damage higher up that we'll be talking about soon. But yeah, it's you'll be able to understand it better when we talk more about this system. No other questions like that? We're going to revisit aphasia when we do the language system. Yes.
So how does that, like, saying is to like you could like she could hear but like wasn't understanding? How does that work with like reading? Like, is that effective?
Yeah. So reading, if it's related to the language system, reading is usually just as impaired. If then you can get complex. If there's a motor component to the speech output problem, reading can sometimes be better. Or if you just like that if it's milder. So say somebody's trying to come up with the word. I'm thinking of a conversation I had with somebody and she was trying to tell me about her chickens, but she couldn't come up with the word chickens. So she was like, my and she was telling me the sounds, and she would talk called circumlocution. She would talk around it, and then finally she was like, give me your pen. She drew a chicken. I was like, chicken. She's like, yes, chicken. And then she started to write C. So she was able to come up with the letters easier in writing than she was speaking. And that's just because sometimes you have to go around something. And she also had some motor involvement. So it's messier than the picture I'm painting.
There's a really good example on Netflix of a woman who's 32 years old and has a stroke and then has like severe aphasia afterwards. It's really cool.
On Netflix?
Yeah.
What is it called?
I can look it up. It's pretty easy to find if you just look up like if you type in like stroke victim or aphasia. They have like weird key words in their descriptions.
There is a YouTube star, Sarah. Her name's Sarah Scott. Is that not her?
It might be her. She's blonde and like a filmmaker.
Somebody else. Well, there is a YouTube series by somebody called Sarah Scott, and she had a stroke when she was 18. And she talks about what it was like right at first, and it follows her recovery. It follows her recovery over 5 years, and tracks her progress, and she tells her story. It's really cool.
Is it My Beautiful Broken Brain?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's the Netflix one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different one. I keep meaning to watch that actually.
It's really
I
cool.
have 2 questions. Oh, y'all knew that. Cool. Excellent. We need to watch that sometime. Yeah, there's lots of stories out there. And when we get to the language system, I'll show you examples of the different types of aphasia so you can start to get a sense of the language system ways because it's a complex system. It's not one thing. You don't have just language here. It's multifaceted. Okay. So now we're moving, I'll come back to that slide. So now we're talking about the thalamus. And in your actual brain, your thalamus is not nicely color-coded for you, for the most part. So now we're going to talk about the hypothalamus. We're going to just remember it's below. The hypothalamus is one main function, really, and that's to regulate things. You can get more detailed there. So that's the pituitary gland, which needs ANS control, autonomic nervous system control. Helps you with metabolism, maintaining your water balance in your body, your sleep-wake mechanism, helps to regulate that. Thalamus does too. The sleep and wake is really complex. Helps to maintain the body temperature, helps to let your body know when you're hungry. Folks with pituitary who face tumors or hypothalamic damage might have trouble regulating their intake, or they might feel hungry all the time, or they might never feel hungry. It also helps to regulate secondary sex characteristics. So your hypothalamus is sort of what regulates those things developing during puberty. So remember that it's a regulator and helps to control the autonomic nervous system. We can look at the close-in here of what it regulates. Tumors are relatively common at the pituitary. They're also not too difficult to remove relative to other areas of the brain. The main result of a tumor there, and this one is usually recurrent, is a high level of cortisol, which is also your stress hormone. You all heard that one? Cortisol. And you end up with a lot of trouble from it, which you don't need to spend too much time on since you have a lot of other things to get through your question. The buffalo? Yeah. Is that what you were, did you ask? I thought you were going to answer. So right here, I think it's just a back malformation. I've never seen it. Yeah.
Is the pituitary gland a part of the hypothalamus, or is it another word for it?
It is another word for it. Fish. So you do have this posterior pituitary piece, but it's all the blood flow for the pituitary. There's really no other functions in the hypothalamus besides the pituitary.
So the book said that there's not a lot that the hypothalamus would affect speech, but that it could affect neurotransmitters that could cause other problems like dyslexia or aphasia.
Yeah, it can affect things upstream, but the problem is we don't know a lot about how that works.
Okay.
So if there's somebody that has known pituitary issues and they're starting to show symptoms, then they're going, oh, I bet that's because of that. And they do know some of the neurotransmitters that are affected, and high levels of cortisol can cause all sorts of downstream problems, like memory formation impairments. So if you're highly stressed in graduate school or undergraduate, in your undergraduate degree, you have impaired memory formation. But again, they don't understand all the mechanisms fully yet. And a little bit of stress isn't a bad thing. Just a lot of stress is problematic. So these are the examples from the book to give you a sense of what the pituitary does, right? So you can also have this extreme largeness if you have too much human growth hormone. Okay, let's take a little break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the epithalamus, the subthalamus, and the basal